What's going on, everyone? Today we're talking Super Bowl right here on Forward Progress, presented by FanDuel. Rob Pizzola, joined by Judah, joined by Hitman. And guys, we have what many people are deeming to be a disappointing Super Bowl matchup because the Chiefs are in it and no one wants to see the Chiefs anymore. But from a point spread perspective, should be an interesting game. Kansas City opens as a small favorite. They're minus 1.5 across the board in this game right now. What are you thinking here, Judah? I want you to break down the game for us. I know it's the Super Bowl. It's tough to find value. You seeing anything here in the early going?
Yeah, I think this is a really compelling matchup. And even though these two teams played a couple of years back, I think the kind of construction of these teams is very, very different. I think kind of the central question to me is the Eagles' defense has been great pretty much since week 5 of the season, by far the best defense in the NFL. And I think the question is, can they really hold up against Mahomes? Or better said, can Mahomes kind of mitigate the effects of the Eagles' defense? If he's converting every 3rd and 8, I don't think it's going to matter, as much that the strength of the Eagles team is on their defense. And on the flip side of the ball, the Chiefs' run defense has gone from a unit that was one of the best in the NFL to really struggling over the second half of the season, or I guess struggling relative to where they were. And obviously, the Eagles can get their ground game going. I'm assuming that Jurgens and Dickerson on the interior are going to be healthy. That obviously also matters in pass protection against Chris Jones. But something that does stand out to me is that the Chiefs have played a lot of man coverage in the playoffs this year. They've done it in the past as well. And Jalen Hurts and the Eagles have some pretty stark differences. He's about like 95th percentile in most kind of categories against man coverage, and he's been well below average against zone. So I think the Eagles actually have a chance to kind of move the ball in multiple ways. And as I was saying in previous weeks, a lot of how the Eagles, if you want to talk about the prop markets, a lot of how the Eagles are priced is relative to the positive game states that they've been in all season. And certainly in this spot, there is a greater chance of them being forced into a negative game state, which would mean things like Hurts passing attempt stuff might have some value there, which is, I guess, where I'd have to go. But as you said at the outset, this is the Super Bowl. This is not the opening lines. It's tough to kind of find some value, but I certainly think there are cases to be made, and to take a stand on any kind of matchup angle is not unreasonable at all.
Yeah, I do want to dig into the Eagles stuff a little bit, but Hitman, I want to get your thoughts on the matchup itself as well. Obviously, I know that you have your own service, and listen, I mean, it's name of the game. You got to release a Super Bowl pick every week. People want it. What's your confidence level in the side that you like in the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I mean, I bet Kansas City. Obviously, I think that it's a very, very small edge. I mean, it's a Super Bowl with 200 grand limits
Mhm.
right now, but it's kind of just been, I've been betting Kansas City throughout this playoff run in a lot of these games that are around this field goal type line, and
Yeah.
it's worked for me. I mean, Kansas City is now on a 23-1 straight up run going back to last season. They're just kind of reminiscent to me of a lot of these old New England teams that just make every single high leverage play. And in a toss up close game, I trust the coaching staff of the Kansas City Chiefs a lot more than I trust Philadelphia's. And I trust the quarterback, obviously, for Kansas City a lot more than Jalen Hurts. I think that the key matchup of the game is when Kansas City does get Hurts into passing situations. Kansas City has two really good corners who can match up with their wideouts. This is a very condensed target share that the Eagles do have. And Jalen Hurts this season has arguably been the worst quarterback in the league against pressure and against the blitz. And he's now going against the defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo, who is probably inarguably the best big game defensive coordinator in the league. And plus, there's just some stuff with the Eagles injury wise. Like, I know that Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson are going to play, but probably not 100%. A.J. Brown, obviously, he's going to play, played well last week against Washington, but he's not 100%. But most importantly, there's some talk about Jalen Hurts that could possibly need a cleanup procedure on his knee after the season. It's not like he was extremely mobile against
Mhm.
Washington. He destroyed them from the pocket, but he ran for only 16 yards, which was the least amount of rushing yards he had in a game all season. So like I said, I bet Kansas City, but I'm not pretending that it's some massive edge in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, to add to that, and I mean, I think it echoes Judah's point as well about, um, I mean, potentially Philadelphia finding themselves in game states that they're not in. But I think Hurts, the way people think of Jalen Hurts is, this mobile rusher, and yes, there's 2 weeks off between now and the Super Bowl. But I don't mind looks that target Hurts under in rushing, but over in passing for the Super Bowl. It's kind of counterintuitive to how people think about him, but because of potential game states and because of potential knee injury situations, I think that that's relevant. I also think about, we tend to not see a lot of movement on Super Bowl numbers year to year. It just doesn't happen a lot. Like Hitman said earlier, the limits are really high already. You could pretty much get whatever you want. But I can't help but notice we've had 2 playoff games for the Eagles this year. Packers, they got steamed out quite a bit in that game. Commanders, they got steamed out quite a bit in that game. So there's been some market support for the Eagles here in the playoff run. Kansas City, I don't know if you guys were following at post against the Bills, but there was a lot of Bills money at post. Even against the Texans, that number got bet up all the way, and then there was some Texans money at post as well. So I think there's a market dynamic at play here where somebody that bets a lot of money on the NFL, really likes the Eagles and maybe doesn't like the Chiefs all that much. I wonder about the timing on this game. I don't know if you guys put a lot of thought into that. Personally, I'm in the boat of Hitman here, where like I don't want to like dumb it down to just like, well, it's Patrick Mahomes, close game, but this regime has been able to figure this out. For it, I mean, I'm watching Bills Chiefs with friends, and third quarter looks like it's going off the rails for the Chiefs. Bills force a punt. They go down the field. They score. Bills take the lead. All my buddies are celebrating. They're going nuts. And I'm just like, relax. Do you know what team you're dealing with here? I do think there's something to the Chiefs also saving plays or calling their best games in the playoffs where it means more as well. It's really hard to factor that into the regular season numbers. So I personally like the Chiefs. I just haven't bet it yet because I feel like there might be some Eagles money at some point or another. I don't know what you guys think about that. Do you think I'm reaching too far in looking at the past couple weeks in terms of market dynamics? I'll go to you, Judah.
No, I don't think. I think that's like the reasonable thing to see based on how both sides have played, right? As you mentioned with the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I'd also just say with I think there's also some dynamic of like you're going to have a difficult time modeling the Chiefs, right? Because I think what most people would perceive as their true strength is different than what the results indicate on the field for precisely the reasons you're saying now, and also like they are an outlier. Obviously, you can use the results as one way, and maybe that's kind of a critique. Is just saying you're anchoring to the results, but this Holmes is historically good on third and longs. He's historically good in clutch situations. You can say like, oh, this stuff is generally noisy and therefore it's going to regress to the mean. Or you could say like, no, there's something particular that we might not be able to kind of point our finger towards and say this is exactly why he's so good, but also realize that like he is an outlier. He's not going to follow general norms and trends, and it makes it a very interesting kind of handicapping. Certainly, if you're depending on how particularly numerically model based you are without kind of tinkering, it can lead to a lot of scenarios of them perhaps being undervalued in some people's eyes. I would not be shocked if there's money coming in late on the Eagles.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me either. Hitman, I ask you every week about the Chiefs' skill position players, and I'm going to do it again going into the Super Bowl. The reason why is it fluctuates on a week-to-week basis. You go back to the Buffalo game, Kareem Hunt gets 17 carries, Pacheco just 5. Xavier Worthy was heavily involved in the offense. Travis Kelce wasn't, even though he was the guy against the Texans. We saw some run from Juju Smith-Schuster in that game. Lots of working parts for this Kansas City offense on a weekly basis. How do you see that going into the Super Bowl with the Chiefs skill position players?
Yeah, so last week Pacheco got the start again, but it just became a hot hand situation where Kareem Hunt got the hot hand. I'm interested to see if they go with the hot hand again or if Kareem Hunt has just flat out won this job. It's being priced as if Kareem Hunt has won the job. But again, in the previous two games, it was Pacheco that got the first chance for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it kind of interested to see how that goes. I also spoke about how Kansas City in two Hollywood Brown games to end the season against Houston and Pittsburgh, they went a lot heavier 11 personnel, which kept Noah Gray off the field. In the Texans game, they kind of went back to what they've been doing all season as far as 12 personnel. The Buffalo game went back to 11 personnel now with running Noah Gray, not really running many routes. I believe he ran 8 routes out of 38 dropbacks. So when I'm trying to guess what they're going to do for this game, it's very obvious that there's something matchup specific that they're looking where they're looking into this. But 3 of the 4 games we have seen, they went with this 11 personnel. So that would be my guess, that they lean a little bit more towards that. And when they do, it looks like Juju Smith-Schuster has overtaken DeAndre Hopkins as the wide receiver 3 in Kansas City. There was a lot of talk before the playoffs about they were saving Hopkins because they had to give up a draft pick if he got a certain amount of playing time. Mm-hmm. But that has not been the case. Juju, I believe, ran routes in the mid-20s last game out of 38 dropbacks, and Hopkins, I believe, was at 12. So as much as people kind of go name over game when they say DeAndre Hopkins is better than Juju Smith-Schuster at this point, who got cut from the Patriots, it seems like Hopkins right now is a pretty distant fourth on the Kansas City depth chart. So there's a lot more opportunities, I think, with betting the Chiefs skill position guys, just because, as we mentioned with Philadelphia, like, it is just so condensed. They have very similar target shares. And with Goddard's been getting a little bit higher of a target share recently, but it's just the same guys. And the secondary options, like a Jahan Dotson right now for Philadelphia, is lined at 2.5 receiving yards or something like that. Yeah. So, a lot more opportunities, I think, to bet on the props as far as it goes to the Chiefs compared to the Eagles.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, 14.5 receiving yards. He was 6.5 against Buffalo, if I recall correctly. I remember staring at that for the majority of the week. So market adjusting there to how he's fared in the last week or so, which makes sense, which is based off of snap counts. Judah, I often ask you about alternates, SGP angles, stuff like that. You like to take shots on some things that you find value in. Now, Super Bowl spread is 1.5. I think a lot of people will naturally look at this and be like, it's going to be a close game. And that doesn't always come to fruition. So if there was anything that you were looking at potentially from an SGP angle for this game, or maybe some sort of alternate look, what would it be in the early going here with Chiefs and Eagles?
Yeah, I don't think it would be on a side, though. I actually think if one team were to win big, I think it would be the Chiefs. Which is like they find themselves in this positive game state. The pass rush gets the hurts. He takes too many sacks. They can't get the ground game going. That's also counterintuitive to the way the Chiefs play. But I think that's probably, if I had to choose one angle there, that's what I would do. I think Hitman brings up some very interesting SGP angles, which is just like building around Isaiah Pacheco getting the work, or just breaking off a big run that leads to kind of carrying the hot hand. I don't think that is like game script particular, especially because that's probably going to happen earlier on in the game. Right, you're going to need that big play to happen in the first or second quarter in order to get the requisite volume. So playing that with the Eagles build, I don't think is crazy. And then even in spots where you can get like pass attempt markets, I think Jalen Hurts makes for a very compelling play, just because relative to the rest of the league, right? Not that like, the way he's priced, I should say, like he can just have a like fairly average to above average passing volume game, and that is priced based on where he was in the past as like the equivalent of Patrick Mahomes throwing for 375 yards. So right. Just like the regular rates are kind of off there that I don't hate building around that. The Chiefs are also just interesting in that like probably someone's going to go way over his receiving yards, whether it's Worthy, whether it's Marquise Brown, but someone's probably going to pop. You can kind of take shots there. I don't have any inkling at this point as to whom that might be, but I don't hate that angle either.
Yeah, I actually like that quite a bit for the Chiefs. I'm not going to say never, but based off of the amount of players that are involved in the Chiefs offense on a regular basis, I find myself wanting to fade the player who had a really good game last time around. That was me with Travis Kelce against Buffalo, right? It was like, okay, he had this this, 99th percentile performance for him at this age now. Let's go against that, especially with the way the Chiefs run their offense. Now, no one had a huge game against Buffalo. Xavier Worthy was heavily involved. I'm still interested in Marquise Brown in some capacity. He did have a target down the sideline where he was standing out of bounds as well. That I feel like this could be the game for him in some capacity, just because could potentially be the overlooked guy in game planning. When you're looking at the Eagles and how they would prep for this game, it likely comes down to shutting down the dynamics of Xavier Worthy, especially like using him out of the backfield as well, shutting down Kelsey. So Brown would be a guy that I would look at. I want to get your take on one more thing before we wrap up here, but a reminder, everyone, it's Super Bowl 59. It's one game, two teams, endless betting possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're predicting the first touchdown, who will take home the MVP, the coin toss, whatever it is, FanDuel makes it easy to place your bets and feel the thrill of every moment. With live betting all game long, you can jump into the action as well. You can adjust your bets. You can ride the wave of excitement from kickoff to the final whistle. I love betting the Super Bowl. There's so many prop options we can throw in here. Unfortunately, I did bet no doink a couple years ago at a pretty high price, and that wasn't the most enjoyable experience in the last Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl. But for the most part, there's so many things we can bet on, and that makes it really exciting. Plus, to make the Super Bowl even sweeter, guys, new customers can score $200 when they make their first bet. Just place a $5 bet. If you win, you get $200 in bonus bets, and current FanDuel customers can expect a number of promotions for Super Bowl 59 as well. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/forwardprogress. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. You must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. 888-787-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right. One last thing I want to get to here. I'm sure it's going to come up this week. I'm curious, when you guys are going to go through this matchup and handicap the Super Bowl, how much you will actually look at trends from previous Super Bowls. Now, I'm not a huge trends guy, but the reason I mention this is that there is this long history of these Super Bowls being very low scoring to start. Teams struggling to score early on in the game. It could potentially be attributed to the pressure of the big game. This happened all through Tom Brady's career. I'm fairly certain, I could be wrong on this, but there was a long time Tom Brady did not have a passing touchdown in the first quarter of the Super Bowl for multiple Super Bowls. We got first quarter line of 9.5 here. Not just particular to the first quarter total, but anything that you think is applicable from past Super Bowls going forwards, or do you just tend to avoid that stuff? Hitman, I'll go to you here first. I see Judah shaking his head.
I'm trying to think if there is anything I can think of off the top of my head that is applicable from past Super Bowls. But as far as like it comes with that, I guess I could see somebody making like the argument like, oh, these teams could start slow because of nerves and everything. But I mean, this is Patrick Mahomes who's playing in his 5th Super Bowl right now. Jalen Hurts has played in big games, literally going back to his freshman year at Alabama. Like, I don't think there's much of an angle with it, personally. And this stuff does get priced in a little bit. Like, I feel like every year it's a popular bet that the second half outscores the first half, and like some people look to play that first quarter under angle and all that stuff. So even if there was a small semblance of an edge with it, I think that it does get that to where I don't know. It's not much for me personally that I think about.
All right. I'm going to put you each on the spot to give me a final score for the Super Bowl. Judah, you're up.
I would go Eagles 24-21.
Okay. Hitman?
We'll pick it right on the. We'll go. I'm looking at the total and trying to think of what score combinations get me to that.
Yeah, you'd have to
We'll
get like a really weird, like 25-23, something stupid. That would make
28-21, Rob. There you go.
28-21
Lance 49.
Chiefs for Hitman. I will go 27-24 Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl winner. I'm just hoping it's a good game with some decent betting opportunities mixed in there. As a reminder to everyone out there, make sure you're subbed here on Forward Progress, but also we got a live Super Bowl prop show next Wednesday coming here on Forward Progress. You're going to want to set notifications for that. It's going to run for 5 hours during the day. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life, but maybe call in sick that day. Maybe the night before, you leave work and you'd be like, not feeling too well. Set the stage so you can stay home for 5 hours, watch Forward Progress. I will say a lot of those lines are going to move in real time. So you're going to want to do your best to watch the show as we're giving out those picks, especially Hitman's going to be leading us off on that show next week. And I could tell you, once Hitman gives out that pick live, it ain't going to be there anymore. So make sure you set your calendars here on Forward Progress. And of course, if you enjoyed this video today, smash that like button down below. Make sure you check out FanDuel for the Super Bowl as well. FanDuel.com/Forward Progress. For myself, Rob Pizzola, for Judah, for Hitman, we'll see you next week here on Forward Progress, chatting Super Bowl props.